Cybersecurity seems super complicated from the outside. All the technical jargon, the endless tools, people showing off their certification on LinkedIn. It's tempting to believe that's where you have to start. This perception is far from reality. It's not about diving straight into hacking tools or stacking certifications. It's about understanding a few core fundamentals, the basics that almost everyone skips and then struggles later on. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what those skills are and how you can start building them step by step. By the end of this video, you will see cybersecurity way clearer than most beginners ever do. For those who don't know me, I've helped many beginners build real hands-on security skills by starting with the exact same approach. So if you are on that path too, let me know in the comments what your next goal is. Let's start with the first fundamental, understanding how operating systems work. Think about it. Everything you will ever protect in cybersecurity, whether it's data, files, passwords, full applications, all sit on top of an operating system. Even the hacking tools everyone is so eager to try, they also run on top of an OS. So if you skip this, you're basically trying to secure something without even knowing how it's built underneath. What are the parts of operating system that actually matter for security? There are 4 key areas that come up again and again. First, what an operating system does. It's the software that manages hardware, runs programs, tracks files, and decides what can access or who can access what. You can think of it as a manager, security guard, and traffic controller all rolled into one. Second is knowing internals of Windows versus Linux. Windows dominates corporate desktops and internal networks. Linux pretty much owns servers, clouds, and most backend systems. If you're doing anything in security, you will run into both constantly. So it's worth getting comfortable with their file systems, command lines, and what's different between them. Third is all about processes, users, and permissions. Who's logged in? Who's running right now? What actually has admin rights versus just normal user access? So many attacks happen just because poor permissions, like too many people with admin or random services running with full system rights. If you can spot and tighten that stuff, you are already ahead of most beginners. And finally, the logs. Logs keep a record of what's happening on the system. Who logged in, what failed, what crashed. On Windows, whenever something suspicious happens or you need to prove it did not, logs are the first place you look. So bottom line, if you know how operating systems store data, run programs, manage users, and keep track of activity, you've got the first real layer of cybersecurity foundation in place. And once that clicks, you are ready for the next core piece, how all these systems actually talk to each other over networks. Honestly, if this all feels too much right now, I get it, I've been there. That's why I've put together a free guide and worksheet to help you figure out the best role for you and prep without wasting weeks. Grab it from the description, it's totally free and will save you a ton of time. Your second core fundamental. Nearly every attack, whether it's phishing, ransomware, it all happens over a network. So what you should actually know here. First, start with IP addresses. They are like street addresses for devices. Every system needs one to send or receive data. You don't need to be a networking wizard, but you need to understand why IP addresses matter. Next is ports and protocols. Think of ports like doors, port 80 for HTTP, port 443 for HTTPS, and 22 for SSH. Protocols are how data moves through those doors. When you look at network traffic, you're seeing conversations happening on these different ports. Then there's the DNS. Without DNS, you'll be memorizing IPs for almost everything. DNS is the giant phone book that translates names like google.com into IP addresses. Attackers love hijacking or spoofing DNS to trick systems into talking to the wrong place. You also need to understand how data actually travels. For example, firewalls, NAT rules that get your data from laptop to the router across the internet. As you're learning security, reading firewalls rule matter because it shows what you might have left wide open. So the big picture is networking is how attackers get in and how data leaks out. If you can look at the traffic and know what's normal, you will be way ahead of spotting when something is off. And once networking clicks, you are ready for the last core piece, the security principles that actually make sense of all of this. And if you are following along so far, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on advanced topics that will really set you apart. Because here is the thing, it doesn't matter if you are talking about one laptop, a huge cloud setup, or some fancy new security tool. Underneath it, it's all the same few ideas holding everything together. And once you get those, you will start seeing patterns everywhere. You will finally understand why companies set things up the way they do. And the first up is CIA Triad. You will hear this everywhere in security. It stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality means only the right people can see the data. Think encrypted emails or internal company documents. Integrity means the data stays accurate and unaltered, so no one quietly changes your paycheck in the database. Availability is all about making sure you can actually get to systems and the data that you need when you need it. It also ensures that you're not locked out by some ransomware attack or a server crash. If you ever want a quick gut check on whether something is secure, ask how it holds up against confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Next is least privilege. This one is pretty straightforward. Only give people or systems exact level of access they need, nothing more, nothing less. Because the more permission you hand out, the more doors there are for something to go wrong. Then there is the defense in depth. Never rely on just a single layer of security. That's why we stack things. Strong passwords plus multi-factor authentication plus firewalls plus endpoint protection. If one layer fails, you're not totally exposed. And finally, you need to understand some basic cryptographic concepts. Hashing is like putting a fingerprint on data so you can tell if it's been changed. Encryption locks it up so only someone with the right key can read it. They are what protect the confidentiality and integrity parts of the CIA model. Once you got these security principles down, meaning the CIA, Triad, least privilege, defense in depth, you will start seeing why companies build entire teams around these principles. Because real-world security is all about teams working together, like SOC, compliance, app security engineers, each looking at the same principles but from a different angle. And honestly, that's where most beginners get confused. So here is what I want you to think about next. How does it all actually work in a real business? Who handles which risks? Who watches alerts? And who writes the policy? And that's exactly what we will break down in my next video on how companies structure security, and it might just help you figure out where you want to go next. So click on the link, see you in that video.